about the lesson.
Okay.
Nick, in good shape.
Hello. Today's lesson is on the slope formula. And the objective today is to find the slope of a line given 2 points. The formula is m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Don't worry, we're going to end up getting rid of those subs shortly here. Because as you'll see, the subscripts don't really matter as long as you keep the y and x from the same coordinate lined up. This y and this x come from the same coordinate, and this y and this x come from the same coordinate. And if you flip-flop them, like that, you end up getting the same slope either way. And we're going to see that with our first example. Let's say you're given, this is why you slide doors. Let's say you're given these 2 coordinates, 5, 6 and 2, 3. And you're asked to find the slope. Following the formula as it is written, you would do y2 minus y1. So you would do 3 minus 6 over x2, since this comes from the second coordinate, over x1. So you do 2, sorry, not over minus x1. That would be where I would restart. But I gotta keep going anyway. Right. 2 minus 5. 2x2 minus x1. 3 minus 6 gives you negative 3. 2 minus 5 gives you negative 3. Negative over a negative gives you a positive. And 3 over 3 is going to give you 1. So the slope is 1 for this particular given set of points. If we switch the order around and do 6 minus 3, which is the y1 minus the y2, we have to start with the x1, 5 minus 2 on the bottom there. x1 minus x2. We still get 6 minus 3 is 3, 5 minus 2 is 3, 3 over 3 is 1. We get the same slope, it's just, instead of having negative over negative, we have positive over positive. And this is true no matter how you set them up, as long as you make sure vertically they come from the same coordinate. This y and this x come from the same coordinate, this y and this x come from the same coordinate pair. Now, what happens with negatives in the formula? The formula does have subtraction in it, and some people get confused when there's negatives there. So here we have 2 coordinates with some negative numbers in them. We're going to do y minus y over x minus x. So we do, I'm going to start with this y. You choose whichever y you want to start with. I'm going to start with this y. I'm going to do negative 2 minus 8 over this x. Since I started with this y, I've got to start with this x. Negative 4 minus a minus 6. Notice how I put them in parentheses because there's no such thing as minus minus. I've got to do minus in the parentheses like that. And minus a minus becomes a plus. So this becomes negative 2 minus 8 is going to be negative 10. Negative 4 plus 6 is going to give me 2. This can be reduced. 10 divided by 2 is going to give me 5, and it is still negative. So the slope on this, in this case is negative 5. What about 0? What happens when 0 ends up being part of your equation? Well, it's not one of the points in the slope part of that. It's not one of the coordinates in my points there. But when we do the math here, when we do y minus y over x minus x, we're going to find out that the top becomes 0, because 4 minus 4 is 0. And negative 3 plus 2 is going to give me negative 1. Well, 0 divided by anything is 0. So the slope here is 0. And that's because if you graph this, these 2 points, they are going to form a horizontal line. And any horizontal line has a slope of 0. Zilch, nada. So it actually does have the value of 0. It's not the same thing as no slope. It has a value of 0. Now, what happens if 0 occurs on the bottom? Well, if we do the y minus y here, this time I'm going to switch around. I'm going to do 10 minus the 8. Because I like to work with positives when I can. So I'm going to do the larger minus the smaller. But since I started with this 10, I got to start with this 5. Well, since they're both 5, it doesn't really matter, does it? 10 minus 8 gives me 2. 5 minus 5 gives me 0. Can you divide by 0? No. So this is no real slope. It's not the same as slope equals 0. This, if I graph the line, well, graph the points and put a line through them, I'm going to find that they are going to be a vertical line. And they're all vertical lines have a slope of no real slope. Let's take a look at a real world problem. John has to build a handicap ramp for his home. The front door is 3 feet above ground. His ramp will end 10 feet away from the door. What is the slope of the ramp? I find it's helpful to use the draw a picture method of solving this. Here we have our little door, and it is 3 feet above the ground. The ramp ends 10 feet away from the door. So we're looking for the slope of this line. Well, if I call this point 0, 0, I drew this backwards. I'm just going to erase and we'll go the other way. This is where I would stop you, you know? But
Okay, yeah.
here's the door. It's 3 feet above and 10 feet out. I'm going to call this point 0, 0. That makes this point right here 10, 3. I now have 2 coordinates. I can use my y minus y over x minus x formula. So I'm going to have 3 minus 0 over 10 minus 0. X, x, y, y. Which gives me a slope of 3/10. Do I change that to a decimal? No. Remember, slope is a fraction. And it's okay to leave it in fraction form.
Or a ratio.
Or a ratio. Thank you.
Yeah.